Welcome to Barley and Hops. I'm George. If you're new, you just joined a huge community of distillers, and they're all here to help. What a great, wonderful community. If you're a returnee, we always love having you. That's what makes us possible. Now, this is the channel that offers you the unvarnished truth about everything you need to know about home distilling. So, you want to save money? We've got a great idea for you today. We're going to attach a cover on an element. Plus, I got some other information that I really want to share with you. I got some good news and some updates, and we'll get right to it.
Made way back in top of them hills where there's plenty of moonshine still.
Now that we're here, let me share a couple of things that has happened over the past couple of weeks. I'll give you a real quick update on our audible proof and trail hydrometer. And again, this is one of those things that the community reached out and was super helpful. Mark, you are my mentor. You are the one that made most of this possible with the coding. So I just want to say thank you. And thank you again. We're still not done, but we're close. But I've got that time of flight sensor in there, and of course that's all hooked up, and it reads off of an SD card. Oh my goodness, speakers. That thing is wonderful. Now, we did our last video on adding a heating element. We added one of these to a side of a still that didn't have one, and I mistakenly identified this as a 1 1/8 inch. It's 1 3/4. Just remember to measure the outside of the threads so that you get the right hole saw. And some of them are going to be 1 3/4, some will be 1 1/2. It all depends on who the maker is, on how thick that is. So, sorry, this is a 1 3/4. And yes, I had to go out and get it. I wore this one out. I went out and bought a new set, $35 at Harbor Freight, bimetal by Warrior. They're excellent. So now I got another new set. I could have spent $10 on this or $35 on a whole new set. So I opted for that. Oh, yes, and thank you for all the information about how to actually run that hole saw. Really, really good tips and tricks from viewers who have taught me how to run a bimetal hole saw to cut stainless steel. Don't go full blast. Intermittent. Slow RPM, a lot of pressure. Thank you. Now, on to what we're here for. Let me bring out a board and show you something. Okay, let me show you what you need. Now, these are not gotta have items, but you see I've got a price list out here. I'm gonna show you the ones that you like gotta have. As a matter of fact, I'll circle them. And we're gonna do this for the 120 volt, 2000 watt element. Now, will this work for the 240 volt, 3500 watt element? Absolutely. It'll work for the 5500. It'll work for any of them. Okay, they're all going to be mounted and protected the same way. But you know, you got those pesky screws on the back here with the wires that hang out, and there's always a chance that you slip by and hit it and get electrocuted. You don't want that to happen. Plus, it looks like ass just hanging out there. You want to kind of purdy it up. So you need one 120 volt, 2000 watt element. I paid $4.85 at my local hardware store. Oh, then you need one female adapter, PVC pipe. And this is a 1 inch Schedule 40. They're all Schedule 40. And we're going to need one coupling. It's a 3/4 inch coupling. And that's just going to connect my female adapter to my 1 inch cap, which can make it look like that. So I'll need a cap. So I've spent $72, $36, and 50 cents. All right. Now, one PG-16, that's the size they come in. If you order them on Amazon, just type in PG-16 gland plug. You can get a whole slew of them. But this, I believe, is 13.5 millimeters or somewhere around that neighborhood. But it'll have PG-16 written on the side of it. But that's the size you need for the cable that we're going to use, and that's going to be mounted right there. Then, of course, we're going to need a 120 volt, 20 amp plug. It costs me about $2.25. You know, they're not that expensive. Okay, and then about 3 feet of, and I got that laying around here. Trust me. 3 feet of this cable. This is 12-3, which means you have 12 gauge, 3 conductors, a black, a white, and a green, and it's SJ00W. That's what it's called. It's styled. It's a power cord. That's going to run you about $350. So total, we've spent really like $13.30. You know, when you put it all together. And that's a far cry cheaper than the $40 or $50 you can find them for online. Let's build one and get this over with. But before we do that, promise to show you the things you absolutely have to have are the things that you can kind of do without. You absolutely got to have that. You absolutely got to have this. And you absolutely got to have that. The rest of the stuff really is optional. You know, you can do without that. I mean, as a matter of fact, oh, no. And that. You've got to have that. See, you could actually have this covering your bottom and your wires. That way you can never touch it. But, you know, if you want to sex it up a little bit and make it look good, you know, we're going to do, I'll show you. Okay, as we get started, this is that 120 volt, 2000 watt element that I purchased for $4.85. Now, you'll notice that on the bottom, here's one that I've already got open, and you'll notice around here that I've shaved off these corners, these edges, and I got to show you how I do that because it's not actually a rectangle and it's not actually a square. It's kind of, maybe you can call it a rectangle, but it's kind of odd. And this female 1-inch Schedule 40 pipe, if you get that right, it'll screw right on there and you can screw it all the way down. And we're going to make that happen. Now, there's a challenge. You see, this happens to be a low density 4500 watt element, but I want you to notice something. You see these little tabs that are over on the side? If you get one that has these tabs, it makes it almost, well, not impossible. I've done it and cut those off with a saw, but it makes it really difficult to hone these down. And you can see how it's 8-sided. It's like an octagon that's almost a, you know, almost a rectangle. And so the ones you're looking for are the ones that have these tabs that go up. You see that? That tab goes up instead of the tab that comes down over the side. Now, you can work with this one, but it's a lot easier to work with these, okay? Let's get started. Now, I've got a series of Dremels I've got mounted up here, and I mounted those up there for another reason. I'm just telling you that while I'm opening this up. I mounted them up there because I use several different bits, circular bits and saw bits, and instead of changing them all the time because becomes monotonous. For the cost of those, I just got a bunch of them and put them upside. And I put some pedals down here so I can make it work. Oh, yes, on one of these, on that last one over there, I've got this this bit. It's just a rough bit, and it's round, and what it does is it just kind of grinds off stuff. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to grind all these edges, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there's 8 of them. And I'm just going to grind it till it's just about round, and I'm going to round off all the way around here. Watch this. So all we're doing is reforming the base, just so that we can get this female coupling over top of it. See? So we've got that just about round. I've rounded it all the way off, and it took me a few tries. Just be careful. You've heard the old measure twice, cut once. Yeah, if you cut too much off, you got to start over. So go little by little, and I would imagine that you could probably use a knife, a really sharp knife, and slice that down. But I just find the Dremel tool to work, or any kind of rotary tool to work a whole lot easier. Now, We've got plastic threads and we've got a hardened plastic base. What this will do, you see it fits right on there now, is when you start to turn it, those threads will naturally grab that plastic and thread themselves up there. So that is on there now. So, but remember, we've got to put the wire on first because you're not going to put the wire on while it's in there like that. It helps to already have that connected. That should be our next step. Now what we have is, I've already attached this, but you know we've got 3 conductors in here. Remember it's 12-3. So it's 12 gauge, 3 conductors. I've got a white, a black, and a green. All right? Now on this end, what I did was, of course, you just remove the outside, you expose those 3 wires, and I put a black and a white. And it doesn't matter which screw you put them on. There's only 2 screws here, all right? So you can put the black on, it doesn't matter. Now this is for 120 volts. Now just keep this in mind. If you're wiring an element with 240 volts, still doesn't matter. One wire goes on one screw and the other wire goes on the other screw. The only difference is with 120, all right, regular household current, you'll have 120 volts going in on the black wire, and then you have the neutral wire, which is the white wire, and that gives the electricity a path, okay? That's what makes this thing work. Now, if you've wired it with 240, you'll have 120 volts on one screw, and you'll have 120 volts on the other screw. I know it's kind of squirrely now, yeah, but the difference is that with 240 volts, you've got 2 hot legs that are out of phase, which means when this one's high, this one's low, then when this one's high, this one's low. So you've got this going on constantly. I know it just gets weird at that point. But the point is that 240 volts creates its own neutral. So you don't need a neutral. You've got 2 hot wires, and that's what makes this work. Okay? Are you with me so far? Okay. Yeah, if you had just one hooked up, you'd have, and this one wasn't hooked up on 240, you'd have 120 volts going here, but it's got nowhere to go. And in electricity, you got to have a complete circuit. And without that, nothing happens. All right. So I've already done that. Now, you'll notice the absence of the green wire. I choose to just snip it off. Look, there's no place on here for it in a heater element. In the side of a water heater, there'll be a place on the side of the tank that you can just hook the green wire to for safety. That's an appliance ground. Your option. You can pull this all the way back and bring it out here and attach it to your... It's totally up to you. I just snip it off because... No, I'm not trying to live dangerously. It's just that there's no place to put it. And the absence of it is not, in my mind, any more dangerous than the presence of it. I just cut it off. All right. Now, I used these things. These are just the little connectors. And you see they're totally round so that you can use the ones that look like the spade, the fork. But they tend to come out every once. I just like to use these because they really good. They go on there, and then the screw goes right through the hole. Just pull the screw completely off, put it through the hole, and screw it right back in. And that's what it looks like. See? All you do is just bend them up a little bit so they protrude straight out. So now we're wired. Oh. Remember, we slide this on, screw this up. Oh, this is such a beautiful thing. There. Okay, we got that much of it done now. Now comes the coupling. And these couplings, I got to get close and show you this. You see, that coupling is a 3/4 inch, so it goes in the female connector that way, and then your cap goes over top of it there, so it's going to eventually hide it completely. But you'll notice, you see this little, all of them have that for some reason. I don't know, it just makes it hard to go over on this side, so I'll just shave that off. There it is, shaved off. Real simple. A knife, I just use the Dremel. All right. Now we shall insert this on one end And see, that slides right on there. Now you can use, yeah, of course you can use the PVC glue and make it permanent, but why? You could. All right. Now what I have left is I've got the PG 13.5. I know I said 16 earlier. And I actually put a right roll. Yeah, I'm correcting it. That PG 16 is for 10 gauge wire. The PG 13.5 is for the 12 gauge wire. It's got a smaller hole. I got to go get that. I got it. All right, now the next thing I have to do is I got to prepare the cap. And what I did was I'll take a drill with a drill bit on the end of it, and then I go into the center here from the bottom, and I find the center, and I drill the hole. That's a pilot hole. And then I have my step bit. And this step bit goes all the way up to, I believe, 7/8. Yep. This step bit goes from a real small point all the way up to 7/8. So that the further you drill in, the larger your hole gets. That's why it's called a step bit. It steps its way in. These are not expensive. And they come in a whole bunch of different models. Okay, but these things are awesome when it comes, if you just want to drill a hole and you want to drill a little bit and then check and drill a little bit, best thing to do is just measure. And you take a set of calipers, measure the outside of the threads, and then I measure here to find out how far in I got to go. And this one I have to go all the way up to the 7/8 in order for this to fit. Oh, for this to fit in there. So we'll do that. Now, oh, by the way, while I'm doing this, and this is easy, it'll work its way in. I got a new project, and I got a new still that I need to introduce to you, which will be coming very soon. Remember all those mashes that we did? And remember the promised sour mash coming? Yeah, buddy. And so I got that thing in yesterday, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my very best to put together another video as we introduce that. We'll do a review on it and then actually run it, and I'm really excited. Now, I got that just about big enough. I'll run this all the way through. And if you get that hole just a little bit too big, there, fits right in. Super glue. Okay, I'll place the securing nut on the inside, tighten that up, and voila, there she is. Now, this, all I've got to do is thread this through here, put this nut back on this. Now you see, because it's got that piece of rubber that goes in there, and what that is, that's part of the gland that when you screw this cap down, it squeezes that against the cable so the cable can't move. So I'll slide that on there, push that all the way on, screw my gland nut down, and there we go, folks. One complete element covered, and it looks pretty sexy. So that way you won't be able to accidentally electrocute yourself. Now, the last thing you want to do to these, yeah, I do it to all of mine anyway. It's up to you. Right on the side of it, because once you get it all, you'll never be able to see the base anymore, so you don't know. 120 volt, 2 kW, 2000 watt. So it's a 120 volt, 2000 watt element. So what do you think the last part is? Yeah. Attaching the plug. That's pretty straightforward. Plugs, yep. You wire it up just like any other plug, okay? You've only got 3 opportunities in there, and you can't get them wrong. Until next time, happy distilling.